I wanted to get with you guys this afternoon. I had a dream this morning about my daughter. She was a young girl. We're doing tow work here at Cairo, about 51 foot on the gauge, high water. The river's cooking. But anyway, in my dream, I had a big drum, bigger than a 55-gallon drum, but a big drum, and had a lot of trash and discarded stuff in this drum, and I was going to burn it. And so I put a little gas in there and I set it on fire, and then I realized all of a sudden that my daughter was in that drum. And I don't know why I dreamed all this crazy stuff, but anyway, when I realized it, only like her bangs on her hair, just right above her eyes, was just barely burning, and she didn't seem to be in any pain or anything. But she was so asphyxiated, I screamed at her, told her to get out. But she was just asphyxiated, and she wouldn't, if that's the word, she wouldn't move. She just locked in, like she was just in a daze. And so then I had to just reach over into the fire and pull her out of that fire. And in the book of Jude, I believe it's verse 23, which the book of Jude only has one chapter, and it's verse 23. It speaks of us pulling people from out of the fire, which is a type of this world, and people being lost, and people away from God, and our efforts to reach out to them and pull them out of the fire. And so as I pondered that when I woke up this morning before I come on watch, so many times I feel like it really didn't have much to do with my daughter, I don't think, in just praying and evaluating it. But in general, people that are in the fire, that are in the world, that are lost, they are so, and they're on fire themselves. They're not just in the fire or around the fire, they're on fire. And they are so consumed with the fire, which represents the world and the things in the world. They're so consumed with that they do not realize that they are on fire. They just don't realize it. And somebody has to try to pull them. We have to pull them out of the fire. And that and that gives us danger. We have to put ourselves in danger. We're not necessarily going to be able to just win people and never be put to the test ourselves. We have to go against the flesh, and we can't just sit there and watch them burn, people that we love. I'm having to kind of listen here also. Might should have waited on doing this, but we have to we have to put we have to put our efforts in to try to win people, because if we don't, then they're just going to be consumed. And there are people, that trash bin just represented the world, and there's people in that bin that need to be pulled out of it. And but they're so affixed, they're just so, I've never seen nothing like it, that people cannot see where they are in the sin that's in their life, and just the craziness that all this is wrong, and it's headed for hell, and it's headed for bad, and there's no way out but through Jesus. He's the only answer. No, you cannot escape the fire outside of Jesus. And, you know, the world and those that are lost and rebel and against God, they're headed for the lake of fire and the final judgment, the great white throne judgment, and the end of all things. And this is not going to just keep going. It's not going to just stay where it's at. This thing is coming to an end. And what shall the end be, the Bible tells us? How is this going to all end? How will it end in your life? If you're in the garbage bin, if you're in the dumpster, and it's on fire, will you just sit there and just in distraction and just burn up and never make an effort to try to get out? I screamed and I cried and I pleaded for her to make a move, and she would not move, just eyes wide open and staring at the fire. Well, that's the way people are. And they just absolutely just so overwhelmed and engulfed in the world that they have just all but just, it just consumes them. I had one man that said he didn't worship at church, he worshiped on the hardwood. And he was big into Kentucky basketball. And he was just absolutely silly in regards to, and I've known him that was just silly in regards to football or whatever ball, all kind of balls. And they're just overwhelmed with that. That's all they can think about is their team. And never think about eternity. Never think about it. All they're thinking about is the Super Bowl. And they never think about Jesus and the rapture and the second coming and the judgment and eternity. And never, their eyes are glazed over in regards to the world, to making money, the stock market, lust of the eye, lust of the flesh, and the pride of life, into money and riches and things and possessions, and all the same way with the rich man that said, I have all these things. And he said, the only thing I lack, I'll just build me a new barn to put all my stuff in, and I'll sit back and eat, drink, and be merry. And the Bible says, thou fool, this night shall thy soul be required of thee. And so he left this world. And then there was Lazarus and the rich man. And Lazarus had nothing and lived this life with the dogs licking his sores and trouble and lack, and never had anything, and just a very pitiful life. And yet all he wanted was just the scraps and the garbage from the rich man's house. And the rich man fared sumptuously. But then they died, as we all do. Both of them died. And the rich man was in the fire, but his eyes was glazed over, and he couldn't smell the smoke, and he couldn't feel the heat, and he couldn't see the damage that was being done. And so he just carried on and pressed on with his sins. And then when he died and he woke up, he wanted things to be different. But there is no second chance. There is no undoing. There's no retying the knot. Once you're in hell, you're in hell. Once you're lost and you've left this world, where the tree falleth, there shall it lay. And the tree that's fell will grow no more. And that log will be carried to be processed. And that's the way it is in this life. And there's a process. So I just want you to think on that and ponder that. And if you find yourself with your eyes glazed over, and you find yourself consumed by the world and everything around you, the sex, the drinking, the drugs, and all that it involves, and you're consumed with that, then try to make a change. Pray. Ask God to help you. And I appreciate you listening, and thank you very much.